Discord. Okay, guys,
Oh,
talk about overcoming technical challenges, which is like life, right? And I'm so thankful that I have such a patient soul sister. Happy Paws founder Sandy Davis. I asked her if she could please be a part of my 100th Facebook Live Wednesday. You guys, she's an author of the upcoming book, The Power to Rise Above. I was
which
really
we
honored.
just did.
We just did that. She's the owner of an amazing magical balm. I love how you described it as the intimate menopausal relief, but we also, or you also discovered it helps a variety of skin issues, right? It's
Yes.
no matter
I've
what.
even got a real larrikin of a train driver that swears by it for like tropical chafing and things. So yeah, everybody's finding a purpose.
Everybody. And then I just went on your website and you have a happy hit roller, which I think I want
Yes.
to try. Lift menopause funk. And I think sometimes we all, I think we might be in a funk and we don't realize that that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, congratulations on that. And also co-author, one of the authors of Courage and Confidence. And I love the title of your chapter, The Courage to Leap. Business lessons I didn't realize my mom taught me. And I think, you know what? I think a lot of us don't even realize the lessons that we've been taught until, you just realize during the life's challenges. So thank
Yeah.
you. I was just mentioning on the first, second, and third attempt that for some reason I am so nervous and it's like not my first
Oh.
time. But you know how it is.
Well,
Thank you.
hey, don't be nervous. And we're just going to have a little bit of a timeout where we can regroup because I've got something I want to say.
Oh my gosh.
I have a little bit of a timeout because I have 100 of these.
No.
Because it is your, I'm doing them in groups, it is your 100th episode. So we have to celebrate
Oh my gosh,
100.
Sandy.
We'll just have a little bit of a break. Not a break, but just a little bit of a short timeout while we just have a bit of fun. I hope that the streamers are showing up on our screen.
You are amazing. You have to follow her. And I love how you started TikTok. You are so creative.
Oh, I'm struggling with TikTok. I swear it is going to be the death of me. I can't, I'm not as cool as Deslin. I just can't get
But
there.
you had that
Oh,
beautiful backdrop. And, I was telling my husband, oh my gosh, look how creative Sandy is because your backdrop and how you had your product, and you actually inspired me to do my, we were on a mini vacay, but I thought I'm going to bring some books, put it around me, and you inspired just, it's something different, but I love oh my gosh, Sandy, that took a lot of planning.
oh, and we're almost there. We've got another 5
Oh
to go, and it's
my gosh,
100.
thank you.
So I'm so excited. I love your technology, and I hope that people are being able to see the streamers on the other end. I'm not sure if I'm getting them
Oh, I
in the
see
right
some. I see some.
direction.
But just the fact that you're doing this and the sound effects are amazing. And you're right. It immediately made all those knots disappear. It doesn't matter if we
Disappear.
have technical difficulties. It doesn't matter if I think that's what we need to, in order to have courage and confidence. How do you even find it, because I love that happy pause. I love how you said, let's take a pause, take a time out. But in the middle of it, I thought I was going to have a mini panic attack because I thought, what if? I'm always, well, not always, but sometimes you just have this like, oh no, what if? And then you tell yourself it's going to work out, it's going to work out. But what do you do in the midst of it before
Yeah.
it happens?
Yeah, but you know what? I was actually thinking earlier this week, so my favorite Hawaiian broadcaster, well, I don't know, my favorite Hawaiian broadcasters, I guess, because sometimes I'm just totally crushing on Guy Hoggy. But I also love Howard Dykes. He's just amazing, with his Lego blocks and everything. But so instead of talking about Hawaiian news personality, though. We have an Australian newsreader and weather person, Nate, over here on the ABC. And he's just recently become very open and vocal about his panic attacks because he had a panic attack in front of the weather board. And I love that he's just being so open about it to normalize that conversation for everyone. But when I was listening to him talk, I started thinking about it and I thought, even though in the middle, wait, there's one more, 100.
Oh.
Even in the middle of a moment where you either think, oh my God, I'm going to have a panic attack, or you are having a panic attack, do you know what? Even if we think we're going to die, nobody ever dies from a panic attack. So even in the midst of it, we need to find a way to remind ourselves that this is going to end. I'm going to come out the other side and it's going to be okay.
Yes.
And I just love having
love
national
that.
news
I
readers
love
say
that.
that.
Well, and also
Yeah.
that it's okay not to be okay. Recently, I've been tutoring kids and I tell them it's because they're really scared they're going to make a mistake. So yesterday I had this kid and he was like really, really grumpy. And I said, you know what, let's get that anger out. So I got a crayon and I said, even if you want to break it. So I break the crayon in half. And he's like, could I do that? I said, sure. He's like, I'm having a hard time. And then he just immediately within seconds, Sandy, went from, and I said, can we just observe what just happened? You were like, I am not doing this. It is spring break, right? It's spring break. Why do I have to do this?
It's not fair.
It's not fair. I hate my life. And I'm thinking, it's like I'm there as a dentist pulling out teeth. And then right in the middle of it, he was like, can I move in with you? And I thought, how did we get from? But that is what, I mean, that emotional roller coaster ride is real, but letting us, I guess, reminding us that we will get through it.
Yeah, and we do, and it's okay. Is the biggest thing. I mean, it happens, and it's okay.
It is okay. Remember, it was the Grammys, or I don't know who it was, and they mispronounced. They
Oh,
mispronounced
yeah.
the winner, and then from then on, whenever he who was it? Whenever he announced a winner on any other show, they were like, "Uh-oh," and then he made sure that he pronounced it correct. I think it was Harvey. I forgot what his name. He does that Family Feud, and
Yeah,
but you know what I
yeah.
wanted to ask you is
Yeah, Steve Harvey,
I
yeah.
went blank. Steve Harvey. I went blank on Sarah's last name. Treasures Around Us.
Oh, yeah, Kleber.
Oh my gosh. Because you, Des, Sarah, and I will be on together. Is that amazing or
I
what?
know,
With
I
Voice
can't wait.
America. It'll be super early for you, something like
Yeah, I
2
think
in the
it's
morning.
1 a.m. for
1
me,
a.m. in the
yeah.
morning. It'll be like 4:45 a.m. for Hawaii. And I'm thinking, it's amazing how when something is exciting, it doesn't matter that you have to get up, in the crazy hours but let's share your journey and how you found the courage and confidence to even promote a product that some might find uncomfortable to talk about. Some right, some people might think, oh, is that a ladies thing? And then I had my husband's like, I said, try it, put it on your, put it, because he has very sensitive skin.
Yeah.
And it's a magical healing power. So you have to not look at what it is. You know what I mean? Because especially if you're a man and you're thinking, wait a minute, isn't this for? So share how you even came up with this idea and the amazing acknowledgement and recognition. You won an award for this. Share that,
Oh,
please.
yes, and I actually have to even just,
Wow, how beautiful.
I'm just so
Wildcat of the
excited.
Year. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, Sandy, did you ever think that you would be where you are now with all of these accolades and all of these amazing opportunities to shine?
Do you know, absolutely not. That's the thing. Like, this experience with Happy Paws is just an unexpected, well, I say it's an unexpected gift from the universe, even though I encounter haters. I've been called vulgar for trying to do something for menopause and women's health, which is like a dirty word still to people. I've copped a lot of flack, but it doesn't matter because it's just been the most amazing gift. And I guess whenever I really cop some of that hate, I suppose we call it on social media or whatever, I think about, I have a lady in her 80s who returned swimming after 20 years because part of what I do with creating this balm, it is very beneficial to vulval and vaginal dryness. 77%, the latest academic research says, 77% of us over the age of 45 will have dryness sometime in our lifetime, but still less than 20% of us will even speak about it. And of that 20% that will speak about it, less than 20% try to make it better because there's so much shame associated, and there shouldn't be. Like, we've got to undo this association of shame with natural life transitions. So yeah, those women like that. I have another woman in her 70s that says, if I had discovered this in my 50s, I would have had so many better days, of just, because when you can sort out in that menopause journey something that's making you feel uncomfortable or less than your best self, your day is better. All of those stories mean so much to me. A Muay Thai fighter in her 30s that feels like it's given her a lease on life. A gardener, I've got an Iron Woman that swears by it, both during her practice ride cycling and after. All those things to me just make it all worthwhile. So I guess I get my courage and confidence from women whose lives have improved because of the creation of the balm. So all the rest just, yeah.
But what about
doesn't matter. They can take a hike.
Because right now you're having all of this appreciation, people acknowledge it's an amazing product, but in that planning stages when you think, is this really something that's going to take off, or did you have doubts in the very beginning in the planning stages and production?
Yeah, and I think you always have doubt, and if you're practical about your business, you're always going to have a bit of doubt, and then you just have to weigh it up and then late. Which actually, in that book, you talked about courage and confidence lessons I learned from my mom. Yeah. One of the biggest things in my chapter is, have the courage. And if you don't have to have the courage, even if you're scared to death, just put on a fake front of courage and have a go. Because at the end of the day, and my husband and my youngest daughter were so supportive because they just said, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it doesn't take off and it doesn't come to fruition like you believe, never mind. We had a good time doing it and we'll move on.
Wow, but what a positive attitude, because other people might say, and this is where, a lot of my students don't want to do that because I love this and I have a bad memory. And so we're trying to retrain that you direct your brain. So we have to say my memory is getting better and better, or I'm not good at reading, or I'm, pretty much lesser than, because they're judged based on grades, based on ability, right? And when I say it's okay to make mistakes, they often say, well, that's not what I was taught. So I do say that it's a behavior that's taught. And so I think with you and, just having this platform and your journey to explain why it's so important to be courageous. And like you said, just leap. Don't focus on whether you're going to succeed or fail, right? Just do it. Is that what your motto is?
Well, just do it and just embrace that. For me, like, my biggest definition of perfection is embracing imperfection. So, you're going to have stuff ups along the way. You're going to have things you could have done better. Who cares if you're having a go and moving forward? And that's the same, with kids, young adults, us in our 50s, any of us, just embrace it and celebrate the movement forward, not wallow in the things that didn't go quite right, like us now.
Yeah,
we had a few little hiccups.
Maybe the universe did this. And as soon as you said, don't worry we'll get this. And I thought, okay, because there's some people say, you know what, that's all right, we tried. And I love how you, and that just kind of symbolizes how I mean, your spirit. It's like, you know what, we will get there. And part of me thought, I don't, then I, when I realized you weren't, I didn't have you as a friend because it's Sandy and Harry, right? So as soon as
Yeah.
I accepted it, I invited you, nothing. Then I see you. Thank goodness we have multiple social media to communicate with. And I thought, okay, it's all right. And then this is something that I rarely do. I think I did it once or twice, the Facebook Live on Zoom. And what happens sometimes is the way it's almost like the old kung fu movies. You know how what you say, and then there's like a little lag. But
Yeah.
what you just explained, just go for it, and it really doesn't matter, the outcome. It's just showing up, doing it. I mean, and you with the 100 that is just,
I love it. I've got streamers
I
everywhere now.
love it. I absolutely love it. You are just so amazing. And I think anyone who, and I'm sure you're told this. I mean, you just light up a room. I'm sure how was it? Describe when you received the award. I remember that weekend you were going and you weren't sure. You said that you're nominated and
Yeah.
you weren't sure about the outcome. And then describe that moment.
Oh, it just, well, I think too, like as we age, we don't expect to have those things in our journey anymore, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I was like a teenager. Like it was like I was actually watching our football team on Friday night run the best touchdown ever, and I was a cheerleader. So I was like, ah! So yeah, it was lovely. And it was just lovely to, I guess, have that reassurance in a formal award that I am on the right track and that I need to keep pushing to break down those stigmas regarding menopause, because we all deserve to be able to thrive and have it be a happy pause, not something where we don't know how to talk to our doctor or we feel like we're losing our minds. I mean, we're not, so we need to get the word out there that it is a natural transition that we'll all migrate through and we'll soar, not wallow. So I love just the validation that I was on the right path.
Well, and some people really believe. I remember Oprah had a little show on it, and she said, I thought like she was having a heart attack. She thought, that panic attack feeling. And then you don't want to go to your doctor because you don't have any like tangible proof. Like, what is this? And
Mm,
then you find out that it's, you think, wait a minute, no one really teaches you about like and I didn't know my mom had a hysterectomy, so I thought if you have a hysterectomy, you just bypass menopause. And then I was told
yeah,
the opposite. You go straight into
right in.
menopause. And she was, I think, in her early 40s because I was about 10. And I thought, and I look back now, and hysterectomies were just it was just done because you had women problems or you had problems with uterus, and
Yeah,
they just, well, let's just take it out. And
yeah,
no
it
one
was always the
questioned it,
first.
right?
Yeah. And that's part of like we look back and tell those stories, and yet we're still not teaching about menopause in our sex ed. We don't teach
That's
the
right.
transition of whole of life, and yet we're having our children later, which means our children are growing up with us while we're going through perimenopause. And one of the things I've discovered with so many men I speak to is they either say, oh wow, I really want to help my wife, or I've had a lot of men as well say, I don't think I would have been such a rat bag as a teenager if I'd known what my mom was going through. So we all need to learn about it. It's not just something that we need to know for managing it ourselves, because there is a family and a friendship and a circle of support around us that want to help and be a part of us transitioning well if they know and understand.
You're so right, because I remember a 12-year-old telling me that he had to be nicer to his mom when she had a tummy ache. But you talk about period, emotional roller coaster ride, but you don't really mention menopause. It's such a very, like, oh yeah, my mom's going through the change. What is that? And then I wasn't sure. I remember someone in their 70s, they used to go to the Y and they're like, oh yeah, it might last up to 10 years. And I thought, what? And they just laugh. You'll get over it. Yeah, we all go through it. But 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what signs to look for. So is that what you also try to educate people on? Like, how do you know? Because doesn't it start at, I don't know, some people start earlier, right?
Well, yeah, so perimenopause is that period where you lead up to, and menopause is actually only one day. So menopause itself is when you haven't had a period for 12 months.
Right.
So like technically you're either perimenopause or postmenopause, except for that one day. And it's that perimenopausal lead up, where your periods get farther in between, and there's big gaps, and then sometimes they'll just come back to back. And with all of that is all those hormonal changes, and that's when you start to experience more of those emotional dips and brain fog, that lack of concentration. For me, I experienced a lot of dryness because, and that was probably the biggest thing for me. I was experiencing this dryness, but my GP was just telling me, he would say it's just perimenopause, because the blood test showed you weren't, fully postmenopausal yet. So even my GP didn't have that understanding that perimenopause era is where it's all packing in and like just punching you. And so I still didn't have that education and understanding that I want the next generation to have, because it's not just perimenopause. That era of perimenopause is where we're trying to figure it all out. And when, things like dryness appear, brain fog is probably one of the biggest ones. So even at work, we all of a sudden think maybe we don't have the same passion for work, or we're frustrated with ourselves because we can't concentrate or can't multitask like we used to. But we just have to change that paradigm and change how we manage our workflow. So it even goes beyond just education for our kids and family. Our workplace team members and supervisors need
Yes,
to
because they might
understand
think that
too.
you're incompetent or that you didn't prepare enough, and that feeling of incompetence, or you just think, I lost it. I no longer am the competent person that I once was. Or I remember insomnia was
Yes.
really rough. And I remember once someone in their 60s said she used to wake up like every day at like 3:30 a.m. and because you wonder like what's going on? What is going on?
Mm.
And then what can you do? What can you do about it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's so the happy hit. I created and formulated that aromatherapy roller that we talked about, largely to help us in that afternoon dip, just to help us see the bright side, give us a bit of clarity, help our mind still. And I deliberately made sure not to use like lavender, because it's sort of it's so overused, and people just kind of back away when they think, oh, it's just a lavender thing. So I deliberately didn't make it thinking like lavender sleep and that sort of thing. But what happened was some of those key ingredients that I used to still our mind and still our soul, that's part of what helps us just go. I've got so many people when they wake up with that 3:30 insomnia, they
Hmm.
just put a little dot on their philtrum, that little bit between your nose and your top lip, calm, still, your mind stops that, roller coaster. I've got to do this, I've got to do this. What if I
Yeah.
don't? And you just, oh, look, it's morning.
Wow.
So it's been the most beautiful side benefit. And it goes to show that we don't need just something that helps us sleep. Sometimes we just need something that helps us still,
Hmm.
to just shut down and quieten all that chatter in our brain.
Well, that's hard, that monkey mind. I find myself during a meditation or during a yoga, it's like pause, wait, I'm gonna just do one thing. Because part of me thinks, what if I forget? What if I forget? I'm gonna just like pause it, and then I know deep down that I should totally focus on, right, being still,
Mm.
but your brain is just constantly, I
Yeah.
guess, reminding you what you should do or what you shouldn't
Mm.
do. And how did you get that inspiration for that happy hit? That's amazing.
Yeah, well, it arose from someone else struggling, and they had tried a very expensive product that didn't work. And I don't know, I guess my brain just went, oh, that's so wrong for a start, because it was so expensive. And I thought there's got to be a way. And then I started looking, and then I started, playing in my little mini lab. And then I was like, this is it. And it's really earthy, so it doesn't have, like sweet smell. So you're not going, oh, it just smells like, the sweetest flower perfume. It's got a lot of ylang ylang, but which helps with anxiety and calm. But the upper scents are real earthy. And I think they're the ones that just help us go, I don't know, they're like a beautiful blanket or a hug.
I love that analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because
And
now you're doing it for pets too, right? Sorry.
yeah, yeah, and it's so beneficial with pets too. But yeah, you were saying about, like when you do a meditation and then your mind starts going. That's that same thing of, we need to allow ourselves to accept imperfection as perfection. There's nothing wrong with, if your mind is not going to still, having a little notepad,
Yeah.
just writing down that thing and then bringing yourself back to the zone. It still has the same benefit when you give yourself grace and not beat yourself up and just come back and, all right.
I love that. I love that because that's what I was trying to tell myself. Because, there's all these rules, right? It's like, just see them as clouds, ignore, just totally focus. But then I do feel better if I just write that, right? Could just be a couple of words and then you go
Mm.
back and then you're able to have that stillness.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's coming up for you and how can people find you?
Yeah. So you were talking about the power to rise above. So I'm so thrilled. And your chapter is an absolute treasure and a gift from the universe. So thrilled about the power to rise above coming out. It should be out in November this year. And just before that, in June, I've actually contributed to an anthology by Dr. Tara Trent. She was Oprah's favorite guest of all time, and she is big on education for girls. So I'm a part of a book with her that's going to go to creating more educational opportunities and scholarships for young women. So that's
Wow.
awesome.
Congratulations. Doors are just opening for you, Sandy.
They are. And it just, I don't know, it's lovely. And it's lovely finding this beautiful circle of women, like you and Sarah and Des. And so looking forward to us being on Bonnie Graham's Voice of America. That's going to be so great. And how to find me, you asked. So if anyone is joining in and they want to find me, go to Happy Pause. So like menopause, but happypause.com.au, or Instagram is happypause_menopause, or the power to rise above. And getting a bit more active in the power to rise above. So that's quite lovely. And then I was also thinking about parenting stuff earlier today. And if we have a couple minutes left, I might actually want to read something if we've got time for it.
Definitely.
So I should just say that it does involve that I lost my brother to suicide. So if anyone is feeling anything where their thoughts are leading them towards that kind of ideation, reach out to whoever your national support help group is. I think it's the Suicide National Hotline in the US. Here in Australia, it's Lifeline. But normally I'm all, happiness and joy and all of that. But sometimes I think we have to find our way back to joy, and we have to allow ourselves self-forgiveness to get to that joy. And for some reason, I don't know why, because I've never really talked about some of this stuff with my dad, but I just felt like there might be somebody out there right now that's maybe struggling with similar things that would like to hear this and maybe give themselves forgiveness sooner.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share with everybody, and I'm in post-menopause, I have the right to refer to notes. It's
Definitely.
Brain fog. So sorry that I'm reading to you. But once again, we say about that, give yourself that permission to be a little bit imperfect is the definition of perfection. So here we go. Don't wait until it's too late to be the kind of parent and partner that you want to be in your heart. My dad was silent when doctors called my mother hysterical when she asked for help when my brother was a baby because his urine didn't smell right. My dad didn't want her to make a fuss with important men. My dad was humiliated when that beautiful boy became a ward of the state as an errant teenager. My mom pleaded with the psychiatric team to stop the electric shock therapy, but my dad didn't want to make a fuss because those men had to know what they were doing because they went to medical school. My dad was embarrassed when I vocally quit my first job at college as a football tutor, despite the subtext of the tutoring job being that the coach expected these cute girl tutors to not only complete the players' assignments, but add a happy ending. He told me to stop making a fuss. The louder I got about the campus administration needing to stop this culture, the more embarrassed he became. My dad was mortified and absolutely ashamed when I shared with our local Rotary Club how I was sexually harassed by the vice president of the overseas club that was supposed to support and nurture me as an international scholar. All of this pales in comparison to the shame my father felt when my brother committed suicide the night before his 40th birthday. So why am I sharing this? Because my brother had a daughter who was the light of my father's life. And all those moments flashed before my father's eyes when this beautiful 5-year-old granddaughter asked her trusted grandpapa, "Papa, what's a mortal sin?" She went on to tell her trusted Papa Leo how her cousins had told her that her daddy was in hell because suicide was a mortal sin. My dad was rattled and my dad was heartbroken. About 6 months later, he wrote a letter to his granddaughter for her to have when he was gone. This is an excerpt from that letter. On the Sunday morning after your daddy's death, your 2 little cousins broke my heart in a way that I thought would never heal. You were very sad and you came to Papa Leo. We shared a great big hug and talked a lot about how you knew your father was in heaven helping Jesus now. And I told you how much I loved you and how much I would always love you. Even then, at your young age, your insight and understanding of God's love was amazing. I was, and I am so proud to be your grandfather. After church, you took me and your 2 little cousins into the prayer chapel. You prayed the most beautiful prayer I had heard in all of my life. You prayed to Jesus about how you knew your daddy was gone from earth, but was now in heaven helping him, and you knew he needed to be there helping him. You told Jesus that you wanted to tell him that you loved him now, just like you always used to say with your daddy, and you ended your prayer, "I love you, Jesus, and Daddy, I love you too. Amen." This was my granddaughter giving this prayer full of wisdom far beyond her 5.5 years. What a proud moment. I was so proud of you, my wonderful granddaughter, and so proud of my son for all he had taught you. And my dad, he never felt shame for his children or his grandchildren ever again. And he made amends with his daughter, that's me, but he carried that heartbreak of that embarrassment and shame and mortification and that lesson of not learning that all before his favorite son had passed to his grave. And I just thought I wanted to share just from, that perspective of my dad, that he really wished that he had gotten that message long, long before in his parenting journey.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I know I didn't realize, I mean, my chapter was about my suicide attempt when I was, 31, and I never really wrote about it. And I thought you wanted something about like childhood or bullying, and I couldn't think of anything. So I didn't realize like, was this good for the book, and then you had shared that you appreciated what I wrote, and I never thought once of apologizing to my parents. Because your brother, it was a successful attempt, but I think a lot of us who, when we fail at it, of course, when I woke up, I thought, great, I can't even do this right, and I'm sure a lot of us do that. It's like, oh my gosh, talk about failure. And then you realize there's a purpose. I mean, I met Thomas the following year, then I ended up having 2 daughters. I ended up doing this parenting journey. So that is such a special, oh my gosh, are you sharing that with that needs to be global, because I think a lot of us who choose that route to end pain, we really in our hearts believe that the pain will stop, and we don't even think about the pain and the tragedy that we will leave behind, you know?
Yeah. Um, well, I will in the future. I just, for some reason, I just felt driven last night before I went
Oh
to
my
bed
gosh.
and thought I have to share this with Karen and her listeners
Yes.
tomorrow, because we often don't think about, as well, I guess, as my dad felt as a parent, that he realized too late that he should have, not carried so much worry about everyone else and just, shared
You know
that love with
what?
his family.
And that's what most of my students, if not all, really have. So they don't want to be a disappointment to their parents, and parents don't
Mm,
realize the immense pressure we put on our children to make the right decisions. And when we worry, I didn't realize it shows them that we don't trust in them. And
yes.
that is a hard one though, because I mean, my daughter, my 20-year-old, just went to California by herself. Oh my gosh, the anxiety that I felt. And she's 20, but I think all of our kids are sometimes 5, and it was her first time going. And then you realize, like you and I have adult children, and we remember those days. I have so many
uh,
parents who are like, I need them to get into this school or they are destined to failure. I need them to fill in the blank.
uh, and yeah, and we do need to remember just that, yes, we want the best for our kids, but sometimes they can interpret that as pressure.
Oh my gosh,
So
yes, so much
yeah,
pressure.
and we need to remember just to, like, blow their wings more, I
Oh my
think,
gosh, I love that. I love that imagery because I think we don't realize that we make them feel like these little baby birds that you're not ready. You're not ready to go. And then they're
mm,
maybe 18, you're still not ready to go. And then
and
as an only child, my parents did that. I don't think they realized it's like, did you put socks on your baby? Did you, and then they only they mean well, but then you as an adult child think, don't, of course I'm going to put socks on my child, or but you don't realize as a parent, like what you said. Can you say that again?
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Just, we need to blow their wings, instead of worrying or hovering or trying to, protect them. Just be that person at the back that just, fluff those wings and just watch, and always be their safety net, but
Yes.
still just, whatever, not just blow, push out the nest, and yeah, watch them do their magic. And their magic can be, swoops and loop de loops, and it's not all just, upwards and perfection. Like, we have to be a part of that journey where they're going and learning, and not judging or deconstructing that journey when things don't go right, but just being that sounding board that just listens and loves and says, that's okay, we'll get it right next time.
Instead of the
Not,
lectures, right? Instead of the lectures
yeah.
or yeah, it's not an easy road, but I think if more parents did that, because we think we are motivating them, we think that harsh discipline will teach them to do what is right. But I love how you said, like, just embrace the imperfection, because
Mhm.
that is, I mean, it is a roller coaster in the loop de loops. And if there's a failed relationship or a failed grade, or they get fired, or something happens, I think we do judge that. Society judges, that's why, right?
It does. And when we went to dinner, I have a really amazing chef friend, and he invited my husband and I to dinner, and he invited a couple of other chefs. And there's always just something when you're at a table surrounded by chefs, it's just magic anyway. But I had a little bit of a break your heart moment, because we're sat there having this amazing conversation with these brilliant young men of the world. And as chefs, they've worked all these amazing places, they have these amazing lives, um, all single, so all enjoying like motorbikes and all that as well. So it's just all this great conversation. And then somehow it turned to all of the chefs and my husband being feeling like they were dumb and being the worst kids in their class, and how they all had different mechanisms for hiding or ducking away or being invisible so they wouldn't be called on or have high expectations in the classroom. And I was just, as a former teacher, I just had this flash of anger for every teacher that had crossed the paths of these amazing kick-ass men. Like they're all at the top of their game. And like my husband, just an amazing father, an amazing business person, an amazing leader, someone that lifts up and empowers others. All of these chefs training in the kitchen with compassion and integrity to new chefs. And I thought, you know, sometimes that grade isn't the most important thing. And sometimes your intelligence isn't measured from that performance in the classroom. So, if our child is one of those kids that is going to be this amazing chef in the future, we've got to embrace them and nurture them and encourage them, not chastise them because their grade wasn't maybe the highest in that, traditional environment. They might not learn that way.
Well, and that's what I think is such an inspiring message for parents to know that, because what I come across is kids who are reading maybe 3 or 4 grades below, or their child is not accepted into the school of, the parents' choice, and then feeling like their future success is at stake. Or sometimes the child hears, you know what, you don't measure, you're having a difficult time, you're not good at this, whether it's reading or, and and they're not realizing, I mean, it's so destructive to their self-esteem. I mean, I'm just amazed. I bet when you were observing these amazing men who create, right, culinary magic, and then hearing those stories.
Yeah. And just to be at a table where all of them had that same experience, I was just like, oh. And it kind of took me back when I was a student teacher. I had this amazing civil rights activist and alternative teacher as my supervising teacher. And then the university educator came in to observe, and had a conversation outside the classroom with my student teacher supervisor, and said, I don't understand why you're not having a structured classroom while your student teacher is here. And he was getting ready to do a bad mark because it wasn't a traditional classroom. And I wasn't doing a tradition. I was in a classroom where I had my students with multiple children had a reading corner, and I had them reading Dr. Seuss books to their children and then writing papers about how those books were actually allegories to modern life and modern current events.
Wow, that is
I had
amazing.
I had other kids writing a novel in a closet. I had just, I don't know, I had everybody's learning skills. Like one kid was having headphones and a turntable, and then tying history into music, just because the kids weren't learning mainstream ways. So we didn't have a mainstream classroom. And I remember her defending that because she nurtured it, to recognize the needs of all the students. And then that supervisor coming back in the next day and just having a sense of awe. So it's that thing, we aren't always willing to accept what we see that's not the normal way until
Hmm.
we think about why. And then we're like, oh,
Well, because it's never
yeah.
changed, right? People are resistant to changing because, like you said, it's the normal way of doing it. And now the way the education system had to pivot during distance learning, and now all of these kids are, some of them feel confused, or that they were ripped off, right? It's like, I really
Yeah.
didn't learn anything the past 2 years, and that it's okay. It truly will be okay, because when you feel like you're left behind, then that's when you don't even have faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking in the moment when it's our young people that have that moment of feeling like they're left behind and feeling like they may be alone. And because I often talk about how I feel like in all of our lives, joy always rises.
Mm.
So even when we're in our darkest moment, it's like we're enshrouded in a ball of mud. And eventually, mud dries enough that it begins to crack. So, like, even in our darkest moment, that darkness does begin to crack, and we do begin to see the sunshine filter back in, and then joy just creeps back in and doesn't give us a choice but to rise. And it gives us that ability to pick ourselves up and then maybe not continue walking that path where we felt we were left behind, but blaze our own. So in some ways, especially with our youth and kids and college students that feel like they were left behind, they're going to be the game changers and those people that give it. Well, just like our friend Chelsea, Guam's social
Yes,
progressive,
yes. Oh my
she gives us
gosh.
hope for the future. Like, I love these kids that are taking everything by the horns and redefining those paths and carving paths their own that bring long-term lasting change for others.
When sharing their journey, right? Being vulnerable is, I mean, takes so much courage. And I love how the power to rise above, you just said that. I mean, I think if everyone who is a parent of someone who is failing or maybe just does not learn the traditional way, right? Does that
Yeah.
mean that it defines their future?
It doesn't, because they have something magic.
Yes.
Every single, I have never met a kid that did not have that spark of magic. And the thing is, finding that spark and celebrating it and embracing it and focusing on that and letting all the rest, like, yes, we still have to study, we still have to graduate, we still have to do a lot of tasks, but those tasks are so much easier when we're aware of our magic.
Yes. You know what? That just really makes me realize that I need to, because I've been doing this for 28 years. Only in the past year have I realized my goal is not to get that A, not to even make them understand the material. It's to give them joy in learning, right? And I don't know why I didn't get that because I'm so goal oriented and it's like, oh my gosh, how can we improve that score? And then lately, well, maybe the past few years, after my children grew and I realized, oops, I made a mistake. And my daughters are like, you would have raised us totally different. I mean, I've been doing worksheets every day, even at Disney, they had to do a worksheet, and they just took it as the norm. And I'm kind of embarrassed, but then you realize I had to learn, right? Because I was also, right? Don't you think your parents influenced you? So my dad, it was education, education, education. So I have grace and say, it's okay that I pushed a little too hard. So now it's like like you said, there's never, right? Don't you think it's never too late to, I guess, teach that the mindset shift and maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. And well, once again, in that book, The Courage and Confidence, I write about how it is never too late. And like, never too late for anything, whether it's living your dreams, actioning your dreams, making a life change. We're so lucky on this planet. It's never too late. We just, all you got to do is just take the leap. And, when we change our mindset and that sort of thing, it can be continually evolving. So
Yes.
we might still, oh, it might not have been the right path. We just change direction, or we just nurture it and grow it. Every change or every leap that we do doesn't have to be perfect. And it can even be a failure. And then we just dust ourselves off and have another go.
I love, love, love that part because I think a lot of us think, oh no, I just made a horrible mistake. And then it goes to shame. It goes to all of these feelings where you might not have the courage to have another go.
Yeah.
You know,
And
that is so
pardon me.
powerful.
Mm. Yeah, it just, yeah. And you find once you, even if it's just micro courage and you just have that little step, it builds and then you're ready the next time.
Thank you so, so much, Sandy. Thank you so much for not giving up. At first, I thought, it's okay, it's okay. And then I mean, talk about courage and what is it? Just the persistency and having faith that, when you just wrote that, you know what? We're gonna do this. Part of me thought, I don't know, Sandy. The
We
third time,
have.
yeah, we
It's
did
been the
it. And
best.
you made, and the topics that you've talked about, I mean, it just resonates. I think anyone who is a human being who dreads failure, who wonders whether it's too late. I mean, every single message that you share is just so, I mean, take a happy pause. I love when you said that. Let's take a little time out. And then I thought, oh, I wonder what you're going to do. And then boom, never before would I have.
And
Thank
what,
you,
what was
thank
it?
you,
It
thank
was
you. Oh my
boom.
gosh. I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've exceeded my expectations. I mean, right before this, I actually had a tummy ache and I was like, what's going on? And I just thought, you know what? That's what it is though. When you have that physical, it's almost like a physical pain, which is what
Yeah.
happens when you are going through menopause. Then it's the mental, then it's the emotional. Then you think, maybe I'm not meant to do this. But thank you for the reminder that it's just, what did you say? Just take a leap forward and trust.
Yeah. And just and keep on doing these amazing Facebook lives. I just love how much there is to gain for parents and others that are listening. Like you always have such amazing gems of wisdom. And I'm so glad you
Oh.
started this. So hey, I want to be your surprise guest on your 1000th Facebook Live.
There's a tiny bit of me who said, should I end it at 100? And I think because sometimes you wonder, am I going to run out of topics? And then I realized, you know what? Sometimes parents, I need reminders. So it's okay if I repeat something that I did, 30 Facebook lives before, because, sometimes kind of like commercials, right? Sometimes you need to hear it and then you have that light bulb moment. Oh yeah. Because I'm still having a hard time letting go. And I thought I was failing, but I'm glad that you are here to remind us that we're going to have that. I love that loop-de-loop, and then we
Yeah.
get it, and then we don't get it, and then we, dust ourselves off. But thank you so, so much.
It's
This has
been
been
awesome.
so
And
much fun.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And I look forward to, gosh, it's going to be in a few weeks. We got to sleep early that day.
Yeah.
Actually, you might not go to sleep, right? You might just stay up, take a long afternoon nap.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I'll have a nap and then see if I can, make it past midnight.
You have to do your oil, your essential
Yeah.
magical. Thank you so much, and I look forward to keeping in touch. Take care. Sandy Davies, Happy Paws founder. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.